Hey friends. Last week I made a video where I was discussing the various problems that I have with the birth narratives found in Matthew and Luke. I have a Discord where I often talk to Catholics, link in the description below if you're interested. The Catholics on my Discord were trying to convince me that the standard apologetic response for the solution to the dating issues in Matthew and Luke were the correct responses. So I'm talking about the dating problems mainly between Quirinius and Herod, but we were also just talking about Herod's sons, Antipas and Archelaus. We were talking about the census and how all these dates might make sense together. I've been watching Christian apologetics videos in order to make sure that I'm engaging with the best arguments so that I'm not arguing just with straw men. And I would like to respond to one point that was made in a video that Testify put out about 2 weeks ago about the scale of the census in the Gospel of Luke. Let's begin. The one point that Testify made that I would like to respond to in this video is that Testify was saying that Luke is not saying that the census was a census of the entire Roman Empire. At 10 minutes and 17 seconds into his video, Testify says,
Luke is not saying that it was a census over the entire Roman Empire. What this verse says is that the whole oikumene, the whole land, was to be registered. Luke uses this term and nearly this very same construction in Acts 11:28, that there would be a great famine over the whole oikumene. But here it obviously means the land of Judea, not the entire Roman Empire.
Let's start by looking at the Greek word oikumene and where it's used in the New Testament. A good place to start would be comparing the two verses that Testify has brought up, Luke 2 and Acts 18. On the screen now, we have Luke chapter 2, and you can see that the text reads, Pason ten oikumene, all the world. It came to pass that in those days went out a decree from Caesar Augustus to register Pason ten oikumene, the whole world. Let's compare this to Acts 18, in which Agabus predicts a great famine that will be spread across holen ten oikumene, all the world. So in Luke 2, we have the phrase Pason ten oikumene, or all the land, and in Acts 11, we have holen ten oikumene, or all the land. Pason from pos means all, every, each, or whole, while holen from holos means whole, entire, perfect, or complete, absolute, utter, on the whole, or actually. So in both cases, we have a phrase that means the whole land. So why does Testify say that the famine from Acts 11 was definitely only in Judea? I'm not sure. And Testify says that it's obvious that it's only in Judea.
But here it obviously means the land of Judea, not the entire Roman Empire.
Testify, if I could have you respond to just one thing from this video, it would be, why is it obvious that when Luke says the whole land, holen ten oikumene, in Acts 11, that he means only Judea? The scripture itself says that the famine was across the whole land under Claudius. While we have no record of a single famine ravaging the entire Roman Empire at the time of Emperor Claudius, there is good supporting evidence from secular historians that extensive famines did occur throughout his reign. Tacitus writes in the Annals, book 12, chapter 43, about a famine that occurred in Rome during Claudius's reign. He wrote that scanty crops too and consequent famine were regarded as a token of calamity, nor were there merely whispered complaints. While Claudius was administering justice, the populace crowded round him with a boisterous clamor and drove him to a corner of the forum, where they violently pressed on him till he broke through the furious mob with a body of soldiers. It was ascertained that Rome had provisions for no more than 15 days. There was another famine under Claudius as well, at Jerusalem, which is recorded in Josephus's Antiquities of the Jews, book 20, chapter 2, titled How Helena, the queen of Adiabene, and her son Isates embraced the Jewish religion, and how Helena supplied the poor with corn when there was a great famine at Jerusalem. I assume that this is the famine that Testify is talking about when he says that the famine listed in Acts is clearly the famine at Judea, but I don't see why Luke would be talking about only this famine when he talks about famines occurring across the whole land. Scottish Bible scholar F.F. Bruce said, quote, "We know from other sources that Claudius's principate was marked by a succession of bad harvests and consequent scarcity in various parts of the empire, in Rome, Greece, Egypt, as well as Judea." So again, I disagree that Acts 11 is obviously referring to only a Judean famine when it talks about famines that covered the whole land under Claudius. To really drive that point home, let's look at other times when the author of Luke Acts uses the word oikumene. Let's take a look at Acts 17, in which Paul is preaching in Athens and says that, quote, "The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth. He has set a day when he will judge the world with justice." That was Acts chapter 17, verses 24, and then I skipped a whole bunch, and then 31. On the screen now, you can see Acts chapter 17, verse 31, in which it is written, he is about to judge 10 oikumene, the world. Here, oikumene is being used without pason or holen from Luke's 2 and Acts 11. God will judge the land, not the whole land, which is where the census took place, not the whole land, which is where the famine occurred, just the land. Certainly, 10 oikumene, or just the land, has to be smaller than pason 10 oikumene or holen 10 oikumene, all the land, the whole world, right? The land is smaller than all the land, certainly, right? Well, I'm sure that Testify would imagine that God will judge literally the whole world, not just the people from Judea, right? So why would Testify argue that oikumene from Acts 11 is only about Judea when Acts 11 says all of the land? I think it's because of a misplaced epistemic priority, but that's a topic for another video. I will go on to argue that when Luke uses the word oikumene, he is at least implying the entire Roman world depicted by the map on the screen. Why am I making the argument that this implies at least the entire Roman world? Well, because the author of Acts specifically says Asia and the world in Acts chapter 19. You can see it on the screen now. The author says, "The majesty of her whom all Asia and the world worship." Asia and 10 oikumene, the world. In Acts chapter 19, we hear from a silversmith named Demetrius, who is worried that Christianity is bad for business. See, he makes his living by building shrines to Artemis, and he laments that Paul says that gods made by human hands are no gods at all. He says, quote, "There is danger not only that our trade will lose its good name, but also that the temple of the great goddess Artemis will be discredited, and the goddess herself, who is worshipped throughout the province of Asia and the world, will be robbed of her divine majesty. Asia kai he oikumene." Asia and the world. So it looks like oikumene, world or land, does not necessarily include Asia. But the known world to the Greeks was pretty much just the Roman Empire and Asia. So I think that when the author of Luke Acts says oikumene, he essentially means the entire Roman Empire. When he says all of the land, maybe he includes Asia. That isn't totally clear to me, but it should mean at least the Roman Empire. For a full list of appearances of oikumene in the New Testament, please see the link in the video description shown on the screen now. So when Luke says that there's a census across all of the world, I think that Luke means across the entire Roman Empire. This is the opinion of the majority of Bible scholars today, and there is no evidence of a census like this happening. There is evidence of a census during the reign of Quirinius, but that census was not of the whole world. Testify if you see this. I'd love to respond. I'd love to go back and forth with you if you're interested. I think that phone calls are often easier. If you'd ever like to go back and forth, that's something that I'm more than happy to do. And Catholics and non-Catholic Christians, I'm sure that you guys still disagree with me. I'd love to hear why. This is a pretty niche topic, so I think that we can drill kind of deep on this one. So let me know what you think, and until next time.